Or to this computer.
Tony's in,
Okay, recording.
and Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. In the interest of being respectful of everybody's time, I'd like to get this going. Welcome. My name is Bob Lord, and I'm the current president of Barre Area Development. I'd like to welcome Mayor Lozon, the partnership, Tracy, and all you interested people that decided to join us this morning. Thank you for coming. So Barre Area Development would like to welcome you to the public launch of our fundraising campaign for the 143 State Main Street Initiative property located in the heart of Barre. For years, 143 Main Street, known to many as the former J.J. Newberry building, has been in decline. And for years, people have been discussing how to reverse this trend and how and what to do to convert this property into a contributing and attractive downtown property. With a history of unsuccessful communications with the current out-of-state owners of the 143 Main Street property, BADDC decided to take on the challenge of seeing what we could do to change this. A group of motivated BADC board members reached out to the owners and were successful in structuring an agreement that would get this property into local hands so that the future of this property would be decided by local vested individuals and with the help of the entire Barre area community. I would like to publicly thank Steve McKenzie, Kyle Rinker, and Sarah Fields for their Herculean efforts to date to get us to this point. With Steve and Carl and Sarah heading the initiative and the entire BADC board backing the project, we are here today to begin the public fundraising campaign. The agenda for this morning's gathering is we will have two BADC board members provide an overview of the initiative and an overview of how Barre Area Development plans on accepting donations for the balance of the fund needed to turn this project into a reality. We will then have a few community members provide remarks regarding this initiative. Thank you for joining us and supporting this initiative. And now would like to turn it over to Steve McKenzie to start the program.
Thanks, Bob. I welcome everybody as well as Bob did. Appreciate you coming. Bob took away half of what I was going to say. So, but seriously, I mean, the significance of this event is to publicly launch the fundraising campaign for the 143 Main Street Initiative. The name comes from the address of the property. I think it's important to note that if you look at the photos on the side, it includes what was, I think, the former Gladstone's shoe store. That's actually part of the whole building. It's not a separate building. So it's that entire storefront that you see there that's the target of this initiative, if you will. Building has been vacant for 10 to 15 years. If you talk to anybody, probably one of the most common complaints about our downtown is that abandoned building on Main Street. Nothing's happening with it. It's an anchor on the progress of the community. I recall, perhaps Tess does as well, attending a number of forums after the floods. It was a common complaint in those forums. It came up in the BADC Strategic Planning Initiative. In fact, quoting one of the elements of the strategic plan, or one of the comments from the forums that we had, we need to tear down and redevelop Newberry's property on Main Street in Barre. The property has been vacant for years, has deteriorated from years of neglect, and is an eyesore. I think that probably sums it up. From my perspective, and I think BADC's perspective, it's imperative to get ownership control of this property. Nothing will happen until it changes hands. That's the fundamental objective of this initiative. What happens afterwards remains to be seen, but nothing will happen until the ownership changes. So to that end, we established this initiative. In doing so, I felt it was important that we had to make a very formal incredible offer to the existing owners to get them interested in considering sale of the property. I'll probably repeat it later, but the city had offered $400,000 for the property, which is a fair and reasonable price in 2022. My understanding is that it received little, if any, response from the owners. So it had to be credible and formal to that end. We decided that we would make a $1 million offer. The asking price for the building, as I understand in the past, has been 1.2 to $1.4 million. They're all big numbers. I don't think there's anybody here that would try to defend that number other than that may be what it takes to crack the nut. The precedent, I think there are two precedents that we're trying to follow here. One is used by the city of St. Albans. When I was manager, I attended a number of city manager and Vermont League of City Town conferences and so on and so forth. And one of the speakers at one of the conferences was Dominic Cloud, who's city manager of St. Albans. And he spoke to St. Albans' whole process of redevelopment. And if any of you have been to St. Albans in the recent 5 years, I mean, it is a nice little town, and it really rose itself up from the depths of what a community could look like. They did a turnaround, but they ran into the same problem that we have here. They had a recalcitrant landowner who owned property in the middle of the town and didn't want to release it, at least for a reasonable price or whatever. So Dominic's advice to all of the other managers is hold your nose and pay the price. I know that's not acceptable to some, but it's an adage that is really what's going to be required here to try to move this project along. So we made a formal offer of $1 million. I felt that was a number that had to get the attention of the owners. We actually have Sarah Field, our attorney pro bono, developed the purchase option, and that took some back and forth in a number of drafts. But it's a legally binding offer. It wasn't an email, it wasn't a letter, it was a very formal legal document that would bind this for the privilege of the option, if you will. BADC has paid a $5,000 option fee. If the property is purchased, that fee will go towards the cost of the property. If it's not refundable. But that's a very common practice, and we wanted to do that to make it credible. The target date, the action date for determining whether this is going to be successful or not is June 1st, give or take a couple of days, depending on the date of signing of the option. And that's about 4 months from now. My feeling is that's an adequate time frame to raise funds, and we'll speak to that in 1 second. So the purchase price is $100,000. We determined that we would need something more than that, though, to deal with the closing and at least ownership of the property for a period of time. So that allowance, and that's just exactly what it is, an allowance for closing costs, property taxes, and any other incidentals that may come from interim ownership of the property. So our fundraising goal is $1.1 million. $475,000 has been committed, and I realize a lot of you probably heard this before, so I apologize if I'm repeating for you, but I wanted to make sure we went through the whole background. $400,000, as I believe most of you know, has been allocated by the council. BADC felt it was reasonable to approach the council actually reasonable and necessary to approach the council for that commitment. Reasonable because they had made the same offer before, and important, critical in that if this initiative didn't have both the financial and endorsement of the city council, then it was probably dead on arrival. But we met with the council over 2 or 3 meetings, and that the council voted to to allocate the $400,000 at the right time. In addition, we felt it was important for the directors to have some skin in the game. To that end, the 15 directors have collectively pledged $75,000. That's about 5,000 on average. That's $5,000 per director. So we have skin in the game. Those are donations. They are not investments. There's no return of money. There's no interest, if you will, on the donations. There's no return over time, assuming the project is successful. So we have $625,000 left to raise. Big number. At sometimes I say to myself, but the Barre community has the financial wherewithal to raise that money if the community support is behind it. And then other times I lose sleep at night saying, Jesus, $625,000. But I truly believe the community has the financial resources to support this initiative. Time will tell. The potential ultimate use of the site, I got ahead of myself. I think another important point to make is that this process that we anticipate is identical to the process that was used to develop the City Place site. Many years ago, I can't remember exactly, but the first thing that the city did was apply for a neighborhood stabilization grant, use $400,000 of that grant to buy the old Whalen's bookstore, Coins and Hobbies, and then the vacant lot that was next to it used to house the old Blue Moon Diner, I think it was. So bought the property and then started the process to raise the property, raise the structures, and then ultimately go out for proposals. In the interim, and this was sort of at the beginning of my tenure as manager, I can't remember exactly, but at some point we decided, well, rather than leave that lot vacant, let's just put in a mini park, if you will. And actually sculptures were added by SPA. So I think it was a well-received little community park while plans moved along to actually develop the site. And ultimately, after the mayor came in, a process for requesting proposals from developers, then the rest is history. That's the same process that I envision here. Can you put an exact time frame on it? No, it's one step at a time, but we know the general path that will be required to turn this property into a performing property, an aesthetic property that will add to the environment of the downtown and also the vitality of the downtown. In this case, the $400,000 allocation from the city originally came from ARPA funds. They're now special project funds. I actually, the decision hasn't been made whether they'll come from ARPA, i.e., aka special project funds, or the cozy bequest. But again, because some folks have had concerns that, well, gee, these our tax dollars are going to this. No, you're not. No, they're not. Local tax dollars are not going to this allocation from the city. There are no local taxes involved. It's essentially a pass-through federal grant, similar to what happened for City Place. The ultimate goal, of course, is to develop the site and to eventually obtain a developer who will develop the site similar to City Place. Whether that's unlikely that BADC will be the one to reach out and obtain that developer. The discussions have been ongoing that BADC would transfer ownership of the property to the city, and then the city is able to access any number of state and federal grants that will help support the redevelopment of the project, and those grants aren't available to BADC as a 501(c) corporation. The financial benefit to the city is immense, just like it was with City Place. The current property taxes on the building are $12,800. I mean, if you put in a $5 to $10 million building there, the tax revenue will increase 10 to 15 times. I mean, it's just it will again, rather than being an anchor on the community, it will contribute in so many ways, including financially. It's also important to note in my mind that this project is fully consistent with the city's strategic plan that was adopted in 2023, just a year ago. It's, I think I know I got some, maybe I eliminated it, rather than getting into the details of the comments, if you were to look at the strategic plan, I think the section of the strategic plan that goes to redevelopment of the downtown, I think describes, among other buildings, maybe, but I think it describes the Newberry's building every which way you can without using the word Newberry. I mean, it's just, if you look at the text of the strategic plan, in my mind, it's got Newberry's written all over it. And the other thing is it's an infill project. We're not looking to, somebody want to come along and build some big project outside the immediate downtown. I don't think anybody would say no, but this is an infill project. It deals with an abandoned property in the middle of downtown, and infill is a key word that you'll hear used many times over, and this meets that objective. It's worth mentioning further that there's no tax stabilization being requested here. There's no tax exemption being requested here. There'll be no loss of taxes on the property. BADC, as part of that additional allowance, will cover the property taxes as long as we own the property. So it's not a financial drain on the city. So at the risk of repeating myself, what we need to raise is $1.1 million. And that we now intend to pursue through the launch of this public fundraising campaign. I think basically, in summary, and just trying to recapture most of what I've said, this proposal addresses the number one common complaint on Down Street. It's consistent with the city's strategic plan. It's an infill project, no loss of taxes to the city. There's absolutely no risk to the city, BADC, or the donors. If we're not successful in reaching the necessary money to fund the purchase, all donations will be returned. And that's just the mechanics of the process, if you will. Nobody will lose a donation if the project is not successful. Potential 10 to 15 fold increase in property taxes. BADC directors have skin in the game, significant skin in the game. Addressing a comment I heard in the past that there are no director conflicts with this proposal. There's no personal or business benefit to any director by this initiative. It's purely a donation-based approach, and we'll see if that's successful. The next steps are the fundraising campaign. This is the launch. We are identifying a list of potential donors. You can. I'll let Carl speak to the donors. I don't want to steal his thunder, but anybody can contribute, I guess, is the way I would put it. We have until June 1st to determine whether we are going to meet the goal or not. If we do meet the goal, then we'll have 30 days to get to closing. So if this is successful by early July, at least BADC will own the property and we can start the process to move forward. We've got some exhibits on the side, as you've probably seen. I think the more significant one is the first one that shows what's there today and what could be there in the future. I would point out that it's just a concept sketch. No final plans have been made. I think there's going to be plenty of opportunity for public input. But the purpose of that exhibit is to really identify the stark contrast between what's there now and what could be there in the future. In the interim, I would envision another community park. That's not costly to develop, and it will, in my mind, I'd like to think in a lot of people's minds, it'll be much nicer than what's there now. They're much more attractive, and enhance the downtown, at least on an interim basis. That other bottom exhibit, the building, the sketch on the left is a 5-story building. The sketch on the right is a 3-story building. What we envision yet remains to be seen. Zoning requires retail commercial on the first floor. Could a hotel go there? Nice ideal, but I'm not sure the demographics of the Barre community support that. Remains to be seen. I wouldn't rule it out, but it's maybe not probable. To have office space on the upper floors right now is probably not realistic. I think there's basically a glut of vacant office space everywhere. So it's unlikely to be that. What would probably fill the need the best would be to have retail commercial on the first floor and then upper stories of at least moderate, if not market rate housing. And that would also check one of the boxes that every community is dealing with in terms, and including Barre, which is housing. So that, if I had to place my bets, I would say that would be the likely ultimate development of the property, but that remains to be seen. And I think the community and the council are going to have a lot of opportunity for input as to what gets developed there. There's a case statement, and I actually have 8.5 by 11 copies of it, which I think I put down over on the box, but a case statement, which is really the foundation for the whole fundraising campaign. So if you're interested, you can take a copy of one of those. Carl will probably say this, but just so we reinforce the point, you can access any of this information, including donation information, on the BADC website, badc.com. So if you don't take anything with you today, you can access everything we have to share with you on the website. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Carl, who will handle the donation part of this.
Thank you, Steve. Mr. Rinker.
Okay, well, excuse me. Thank you. Hello, folks. I'm Carl Rinker. I'm a longtime board member of Barre Area Development and a past president. And currently, I'm filling in the role of the executive director as the interim executive director. We are doing a search for a new director at this time. So before I get started, I want to thank Steve for doing all the heavy lifting on this project. It is true that I did talk to Steve Jacobs probably 3 years ago about this, just a very preliminary introduction. And Steve came along and joined our board after he retired. And really want to thank him because he's just been working night and day, 7 days a week on this project. So thank you, Steve. I also want to thank Shannon Alexander because she's been in the background helping me with the website, doing most of the heavy lifting to get our website up to speed in reference to this project and a few other things. So that requires a lot of work that people just don't see. This goes on Saturdays and Sundays and nights, and we communicate back and forth. So like Steve said, everything about this project that we have to date is on the website. You can see these pictures. You can click on there to donate. So once again, it's badc.com. And right on the home page, you'll see 2 little boxes, one of which says information. You click on that, it'll bring you to all the information, or below it, you can click donate now, but you can also go to the information, read the information, and then click donate now. So that's the first thing I wanted to say. The numbers, Steve has already reviewed those numbers, 1.1 million total. We need to raise 625,000 now, which I think we can do. I've had quite a few phone calls in the last few weeks from members of the public, some of you that are in the room, willing to support this project in multiple ways. So I really think that we've got a good chance at success for this. As Steve mentioned, we are a 501c3 organization. We just became that last year. We've been working on that for a while. And that means that when folks donate money to a 501c3, they can deduct it off their income taxes. That's just a great thing. So we're going to take checks. You can give a check to any board member. You can mail them to our post office box, which is Post Office Box 265 here in Barre, or you can go on the website and donate that way. You can give your checks to any of our 15 board members if it's convenient. You see them anywhere. If you don't want to mail it, you can certainly give them to me. The other thing is we're going to take securities. So for folks in the audience that are 70 and a half, you have to take disbursements on your IRA accounts. And if you need to take a disbursement this year, you can have your financial company make that check out to Barre Area Development, send it to us, we'll deposit it, we'll keep that money. And if we are not successful in raising enough money to do this purchase, we will send all those donations back to people. But there is a little point I want to make with any disbursements that you had your financial company make out a check to Barre Development for. If we have to give it back to you, you will not be able to put it back in your IRA. And of course, I suggest you speak to your financial advisor, your tax accountant in reference to these matters, but we have researched into this, and I've already taken a disbursement out of my own account. That money is in the Barre Area Development account as we speak. And if I get it back, I can give it to another 501c3 and still take the tax deduction. I can give it back to Barre Area Development for other future projects, or I can just pay the taxes on it and go buy a new trailer for my boat or something like that. So I just wanted to go over those details. The next thing is we look forward to speaking with you. Please get in touch with us if you'd like to learn more or to donate. And at this time, I'd like to turn the launch back to Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carl. We're fortunate we have three people that would like to give some remarks. We're going to start with Tracy. Thank you, Tracy, for joining us. And
Thank you for having
all
me.
yours.
All right, I'm Tracy. I'm the executive director of the Barre Partnership. I've been the director of the partnership for almost 6 years. And one thing that has been consistent is talk of the Jacobs building and at 143 Main Street and how it looks on Main Street. And we have an influx of businesses coming to Barre. We've already had 2 ribbon cuttings this year. So to have BADC put this offer in and have the possibility of having more development here and other businesses coming to our community, it would be huge for our community. That plus having that eyesore go away would also be a welcome adjustment. So I think this is a great project. Steve and Carl, we've had many conversations, and they've really put a lot of work and effort into this. And the partnership is here to help support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Next, Nicholas joined us. We weren't sure he was going to make it. He was a little under the weather, but
I rallied.
the sun came up.
I rallied and I have my Gatorade. So thank you, Bob. And I also extend my congratulations to BADC and Steve for securing this purchase option. And I'm very grateful that the mayor and the city council supported this initiative. As was mentioned, this has been a blight on the downtown for 15 years. And I don't think there's any other credible or timely solution to address it other than gaining site control through acquisition. I think there's tremendous development opportunity at this location. And for reference, the footprint of this building and this lot is very similar to the Seminary Street location, where we are partnering with a developer to build 32 new units of housing. So a similar development right on the main street would be a great addition, not just to the heart of our city, but it would contribute to our flood recovery, right? We lost housing as a result of the flood, and it would chip away at the housing gap we had before the flood. We're only 4 square miles, and much of our land is not suitable for development because it's either in the floodway or ledge. And so that's why I firmly believe it's in the city's best interest to redevelop underutilized sites such as this one. And if BADC is successful in this fundraising effort, and we're able to execute the option, I look forward to a very spirited public process to determine the best future uses for this location. I think there's no shortage of things that could be very beneficial to the city, right in the heart of our downtown. So with that, I conclude by just saying again, I congratulate BADC. Very grateful for the city council and the mayor's support of this initiative, and I look forward to supporting these fundraising efforts to make sure we get this over the finish line. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. Tom.
Hey, I'll be brief for those of you who are nodding off already. Look, I am grateful and I'm excited. I'm grateful to have not just, Tess Taylor is here, Nicholas is here, City Council, BADC, the partnership. We have got the administration. We have got some great partners rooting for Barre. You certainly know that about our governor, who has proposed a major development in our North End. And without the partners, without all of the partners that I just mentioned, it just doesn't work. We don't have that kind of bandwidth. So I'm grateful to BADC and the partnership and all of the partners that we have throughout the state. And I'm excited. I think all of you saw that there was $68 million in funding recently released. The state is building that program. It's funding designed to assist flood impacted communities. So I've already let the governor know half is acceptable. I'm not going to ask for more than $34 million. That would be acceptable to me for Barre. And that's the number that I'm going to be. Tess is shaking her head at me. Yeah, I'm kind of like that when it comes. I want it all for Barre. This project is really exciting to me because if you look at our downtown and look up, when you walk downtown, there are some incredible buildings. Our entire downtown is a historic district. Most of the buildings that you see contribute to that historic district, which means you can't knock them down. Regardless of their condition, you have to renovate. You can't knock them down. This is one of the few buildings in our downtown that actually is not contributing. And that's the understatement of the year. It is not contributing at all. It's probably taking away. So, like Nicholas and like everyone here, I look forward to the possibilities. If you want a vibrant downtown, and I've said this for decades, put people in the downtown. People need to live there because if they live there, they'll walk, they'll frequent all the shops. More people we can bring downtown, the better. So I am just, I'm stoked. Listen, $600,000 is a big number, but I think these ladies and gentlemen, I think they're up to the challenge. I think we're going to get it done. And I look forward to seeing something in 2 or 3 years much better on that lot. So thank you, all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Well, that's the end of our program. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And we'll have a collection plate going around in a few minutes. Thank you very much.
Bob, you're supposed to stay.
day.
And if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Yeah, we haven't figured out the amount that gets a really big check, but we'll test that in the very near future. Thank you.